George Tsilis joins me, our senior markets correspondent, looking at some of the stock news this morning. GT, good morning, sir. Good to see you again. Well rested, I take it. How's the weather in Utah?
It's pretty mild today. Expecting a little more snow. How's things in Chicago?
Yeah. Ooh, you guys getting some powder already? All right. None for us, GT, yeah. But you'll be happy to know they're knocking down the Chicago Tribune next door pretty quick, which means the new casino's rolling in, baby. I think I saw where they're going to put the baccarat room this morning.
Make sure they have a check clearing machine as well.
Exactly. Well, the company we talked about last week. All right, let's talk NVIDIA, GT. Folks happy with their chips, or are they getting too hot?
Well, I think, with Nvidia, if you look at the outcome of the news associated with the Blackwell issues, it's not necessarily an issue with the chip itself. It has to do with their custom servers that help cool the chips. So, I look at this and say, maybe Nvidia needs to, outsource the server technologies to other companies, Hewlett Packard Enterprises, Dell, Supermicro even. I know they've got their own idiosyncratic problems with accounting and financials, but nonetheless, I think this maybe is a short-term blip in the performance of the stock associated with the demand for the Blackwell technologies going forward, which, by the way, are already conservative. If you actually look at the unit sales, 20,000 units, this is expected in the first quarter, and they're ramping up production pretty quickly going through the end of the year. So they're starting out slow for their total production capacity for Blackwell chips, and they're still selling their Hopper chips as well. I think if you look at the elements of their estimated earnings, which they're going to be reporting this week, $33 billion in sales. I mean, for the same quarter last year was $18 billion. So, that's a significant increase of about 70 to 75%. And if you look at last quarter, it was $30 billion. So just 10% sequentially, and even in next quarter, with the low volume sales expected for Blackwell chips, they're expecting $6 billion in sales just from those technologies. Now, you have to consider that maybe some of that will cannibalize the existing Hopper chips, which they are going to continue to sell. Mm-hmm. Eventually, they'll discontinue them, but nonetheless, I think this is maybe a temporary snafu in an overall company's stock that has done very well, but also the expectations are still quite high for the name.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels like my very human layman's relationship with tech is that when something gets overheated, it's usually on its way out pretty soon. Yeah. I love that they're telling them to move their server racks around. Like, that to me would just be like if I've got a brand new computer and I call, Best Buy or whatever, and they're like, yeah, have you tried, raising it up on something? It's like, oh boy, I'm screwed.
Well, look, if you like I said, these are Nvidia's custom servers. This is again what I infer from what has been reported.
Right, but the way they've got them set up.
Yeah, or basically the way they're designed. So you can see that eventually, NVIDIA will be vertically integrated in all their hardware, and this may include servers, but also software. So, it looks like they're having a problem with the server component, their customized servers versus the outsourced servers. This is what I infer from the news.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so the other report actually I see too that's important is that the spokesperson for NVIDIA said that they declined to comment if they finalized the Blackwell actual racks. So they should be making something new on top of it, sounds like. So they might be a little bit just kind of moving slow because now people are asking them if they're going to make new racks for them. So, I mean, it's kind of like they are just the game in town, so they're able to get by with this. Hold on, we're going to send you a new rack. We're working on something.
Well, I mean, their strategy, I don't have inside information, but their strategy may be trying to, divorce their relationship from Supermicro. And so maybe they're looking at developing their own. Maybe they have been developing their own. Seems like they have. And so that could be essentially what they're dealing with this headline release, because Supermicro is not necessarily a problem with technology. It's more of a problem how the business is run.
Yeah. All right. they've had a few snags here and there, so I could kind of see why maybe the stock has been stuck. It's still holding support, though, basically 140, which is the old high. So we're down 2.5%. We cracked through it, but unless you want to be real stickler on the chart, we're basically still sitting at the old highs.
Yeah, so I mean, just the way I'm going to look at it is on when they report earnings, the follow-through day. If there's a big, push up in price and a sell-off, and it's really good news, that might be a topping process because typically stocks will top, when they start falling on really good news, and they'll bottom essentially, when they start moving higher on bad news. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Okay, fair enough. So it's kind of moving the way you'd expect it right now, which could be a healthy stock then, At least it's kind of go like, blasting off every day. Period is sort of on hold for a little bit. By the way, keep in mind, nothing else in chips looks good. I mean, even TSM, I guess, kind of the best looking one. Everything else has been looking real soft, though. SMH is like breaking down on the low end.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so we talked about this, OJ. I when you look at the semiconductor complex, because I look at it all the time, it doesn't look good from the broadness of it. I mean, Applied Materials doesn't look. Some of the equipment manufacturers, Applied Materials, which reported last week, Lam Research. Then you go across the board. Micron. Qualcomm got a bid on Friday, I believe, but it's still been down. So it's what I see is a very narrow market in the semiconductor space. It's Nvidia and a couple other periphery names. Monolithic Power, they actually produce, circuitry that helps mitigate heat in the use of these semiconductors. That stock has been decimated over the past week, and some short selling news, I believe, is the culprit. But across the board, the entire complex doesn't look very robust, but Nvidia is still holding up. So maybe NVIDIA either pulls everyone back up or NVIDIA starts to follow suit with the rest of the group.
Yeah. All right. By the way, apparently a fully loaded 70 GPU server rack with Blackwell's weighs 3,000 pounds. Because these are big, obviously. So pretty cool stuff. Sounds like they're so powerful that they're really having to make some major kind of setup changes. I don't think it really strikes me as something horrible. At the end of the day, what matters is the processing, that they still have that authority in the marketplace where they can tell people, hey, we're going to have to deal with our suppliers, you're going to have to figure out a different rack, or we'll figure it out together as long as you keep buying the chips, which people are. So we'll see how earnings go. Hey, George, real quick, HPE, the upgrade at Raymond James, I think is kind of interesting. I'm going to skip over Roku, which also got an upgrade, but tell me about HPE because that connects to what we're talking about.
Yeah, so this ties into Nvidia. I think if you look at Raymond James, they increased their target to 29 from 23, and they see still some strong demand for AI, servers. And I think again, if you look at Dell and HPE, these are legacy players in the space. They're trustworthy names, and I think there's still a lot of demand for their hardware. But at the same time, what Raymond James is also considering here for HPE is potential price and multiple expansion because of the closure of the Juniper acquisition, which is the communications broadband hardware business that they purchased that competes with Cisco systems. So there's a couple of catalysts here for this name. It's only trading around 10.5 times forward earnings. So if those earnings rise and it's growing its multiple, you could see quite a move in the stock.
All right. Sounds decent. So 2%, I mean, HPE at this point has been pretty resilient. Got to give it credit. Stock that wasn't really in the conversation until the AI stuff really started kicking off and the relationship with some of the major players. So it looks pretty decent, $22. I mean, if you can get back to the summer high and make another stab at it, looks like it trades a little bit off from some of the rest of the group. It looks like a very unique stock chart. Like there's a lot of gaps around earnings. There's a lot of big moves on like a weekly basis. It's a pretty choppy trade, but it's one that kind of does its own thing. So maybe worth listening to Raymond James if they think it's real compelling. Thanks, George. Good stuff. Appreciate it very much.
Okay.
All right. Liquid or water cooled 3,000 pound server racks. Pretty neat stuff attached to the Blackwell